Hi guys, today we're going to be working with succulents. We're going to be repotting a few. I'm going to show you how to propagate them and how to fix them when they start to stretch out and get a little leggy. This is going to be a really fun project. But first I wanted to give you a quick update on the grow room. I did a little rearranging, and by a little I mean I moved the table from the wall to the center of the room, and then all of our gear is up against the wall, and it just makes this whole space a lot easier to film in. Everything else is pretty much the same. We've got some boxes that we need to unbox. We've got a whole bunch of seeds over there too. I might do that in a video because I'm just so excited to go through everything. But pretty much everything is exactly the same aside from the table and all of our gear. So let me show you the succulents that we're going to be working with first. I'll go through all the different varieties, groom them up, and get them all potted. And then we'll move on to fixing stretched succulents, because from there we can go right into propagating them. Here's what we've got. Aren't they cute? So I've got 10 here that need to be repotted. Some are the same variety, so I'm just going to go through these real quick and then we'll get them potted up. I'm going to start with this Haworthia. This is an Attenuata concolor, and I saw this and I thought this thing looks really, really cool. It's got these beautiful dark green leaves, but they're covered with these white dots that are ribbed. So it's definitely got some texture when you touch it, and it's pushing out a few little pups. A few of these are doing the same thing, and it's because they've been in this tiny little nursery container for so long that they have become quite a bit root bound. So I'm not going to mess with these today. I'm not going to separate them. I just want to get all of these in fresh soil and let them get settled in, and then I'll worry about separating the pups when they mature a little bit more. Over here, I've got an aloe called Night Sky, and this doesn't look like a typical aloe, because usually, like, I love aloes, but they normally, like the medicinal ones, kind of grow more upright. This one kind of grows like outwards, kind of like a starfish a little bit. That's what it kind of reminds me of a little. But I thought, oh, this looks so cool. Over here, on the end over here, I've got, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, but it's called Copper Glow. And I like this one because it's got some very light green chartreuse in the center, but as you get further out towards the tips, they start to change to kind of like a burgundy color. And on the underneath side, it's the same thing. And I just thought, wow, that is so pretty. Here I've got a Portulacaria. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This one is Kaleidoscope. This one is really cool because it's got a variegated leaf, but the stems are kind of like a red maroon. And this one is just so, so adorable. Look at this one. This is a Pachyphytum called Moon Silver, and it definitely lives up to its name because it's got a silvery blue-green tinge to it, and it is just such a pretty, pretty little guy. I'm trying not to touch these because if you notice on a lot of them, they do have this like fine white powdery coating. That's called a farina, and it's like a protective layer. This one is called Aquamarine. It's kind of got the same color foliage, but in the center, if you look closely, right at the tips, it starts to get a little bit of like a pinky maroon color. And this one is just so, so interesting. This is a really fun one. This is a Senecio. This one is called Mandraliscae. I hope I pronounced it right. But this one is just so fun and frilly looking. I love it. This is the other Haworthia. And then check this out. I think this is one of my favorites. This is called Ogre's Ears, and they kind of do look like ogre's ears. But I just thought this was such a fun, whimsical plant. I was like, yep, gotta have this one too. And then last but not least, let me get this one over here. We have another type of aloe, which I've never had this type of aloe before. It's a climbing aloe. And I've done a little bit of research on it, and I want to say this thing can get up to like 30 feet tall if in the right conditions, but I think when it's potted up and indoors, it pretty much stays compact. But I am really excited to see just how this thing grows because it kind of looks a little wild. It's just kind of like stretching and curling all over the place. Okay, I've got my soil here. I'm going to be using Espoma's cactus mix. This is a very fast draining soil. It's very light and lofty and airy. Whenever you're potting up succulents, you don't want to use a potting soil. Potting soil tends to hold on to a little bit too much moisture than succulents prefer. So definitely go for a cactus and succulent specific soil. You can make your own if you Google it and research it. I really don't have any interest in that, and I really like the Espoma cactus mix. So this is what I've been using, and it's worked great. I'm also going to be using 3-inch terracotta pots. Terracotta is good for cactus and succulents because it's porous. It allows for moisture to wick through and oxygen to flow. And when you're repotting, you don't want to go too big a size up. Usually like 1 to 2 sizes. I'm not even going maybe a 1/2 inch bigger than what it's currently in. And that's because succulents prefer to be a little bit snug in their containers, and if you put them in too big of a pot, there's just going to be too much soil and moisture for them to utilize, and then the soil is going to stay wet a little too long, and that could lead to rot. So rule of thumb, 1 to 2 sizes bigger. I'm going a little bit smaller, and that's still okay too. Here we go. Okay. Okay, last one. We are going to put some soil in the bottom of our pot, and then we're just going to work it up the sides a little bit. So I just made a nice little well, and then I'm just going to pop the plant right in. Give it a nice little firm press down. And then we just fill in the sides with some more soil. And I am gonna leave about a quarter, like a 1/2 inch lip from the bottom, from the top. So when we water it, it doesn't all come pouring out the top. And I'm using my tiny, tiny little shovel to kind of just pack the soil down around the sides, around the root ball. And that's it. Okay, I'm going to get this area cleaned up, and then I'm going to show you how to fix a stretched out succulent. Okay, here are the 2 succulents that have stretched out. You can see on this one in particular just how far up from the soil line it has stretched. I have taken a couple of leaves here and started propagating them, but it wasn't getting enough light and it started to stretch towards the light, and that's typically the main reason that they stretch. Other than that, it's just a natural occurring thing. Over time, as they grow, they get larger, and then their bottom leaves start to die off, and next thing you know, you start to see more and more of the stems. So over time, eventually you will have to keep repotting them and fixing them because they will stretch. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to make a cut right above the soil line, and we're going to leave the stem in the soil because it will start to regrow new leaves and we'll get a new plant out of that. And then let me get rid of this. And then with the stem, we're probably going to cut it like probably leave like a 1.5 inch to 2 inch stem. And we're going to bury this in the soil. And then we'll have a brand new plant up here. And we'll just let it root in. I'm also going to take a couple of the bottom leaves and I'm going to show you how to propagate them as well. We're going to do the same thing for this one too. So first and foremost, we're going to make our cut. Okay, I've got my Felcos. They are cleaned. I did use some alcohol and I'm going to make a cut right above the soil, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch above. And there we have the stem. And this is just going to callus over and then eventually it will start pushing new growth. So we can just set that aside. And then we'll work on this. This one isn't quite as stretched out. And there you have it. Another stem that's going to callus over too. And what we're left is the tops. And there's some root growth right there. I can see a little bit of root growth right there. I did use alcohol and cleaned off my Felcos before I cut into this one too. Just wanted to share that with you. So now we're going to work on propagating these before we get them into fresh soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a few of the bottom leaves, and typically if you're planning to propagate succulents, a good rule of thumb is water the plants a few days prior. That way the leaves have time to soak up all of that water and then they're nice and full and plump. So I'm going to remove probably just like 3 or 4 from each plant. And all I'm going to do is take it from the tip and just kind of rock it a little back and forth. And just so it kind of detaches from the stem, because you want to get a nice clean cut as close to the stem as possible. So now I'm going to set this right over here and do the same thing on a couple more. And this will also expose a little more stem, so it'll help anchor it into the soil when we go to repot it. All right, I'm going to take one more from here. I've already taken a few from each of these plants before, and I've got them propagating under the grow lights, which I'll show you too. So I don't want to end up with, 500 succulents, because that wouldn't be a bad thing. And well, clearly I've got the terracotta pots for it, but slow and steady. Okay, so this one is done, and now we're going to move on to this one. And this one, you can see some of these leaves on the bottom. These are a lot older and they're starting to age and show their age. So I'm going to remove these. You know what? I'm going to try and propagate these as well. I'll put them on one side of our little propagation dish. And there we go. And now I'm just going to take a couple more from the next set. And let me just show you, I am literally just taking it and rocking it back and forth until it detaches. And because this is going to be our propagation leaf, I'm not worried about touching the leaf and removing that farina too much, because eventually when it roots and starts to grow new pups, this big leaf will wither and die. So just keep that in mind too. Okay, we'll take one more. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to leave those there for a minute and set these aside. And now I'm just using a little plastic saucer as my propagation dish, and I'm going to fill it with just a little bit of cactus mix. You just want to get a nice fresh layer of soil in here. It doesn't need to be too deep. This is probably maybe an inch. And this soil is dry. There is not a lot of moisture in here. If your cactus mix is a little, if it has a little more moisture in it or it's damp, what you want to do is you want to leave your cuttings for 2 to 3 days. You want to let this kind of heal over and scab up. So that way, if you put it down in fresh soil or wet soil, it's not going to soak up water and rot. So let them callus over for a couple days before you introduce them into soil. Now, because this soil is dry, I feel confident that I can just lay these down on here and it should be fine. I'm not going to water them in for I'm going to probably let them just scab over, callus over for about a week. And then I'll come in and I'll just mist them. So all you have to do is you take your leaf and just place it down in the soil, right on top of the soil, and that's it. And you don't even have to push the cut end into the soil because the roots will start to sprout out and they will find that soil. And do the same thing with the other ones. This one actually has a little bit of a root, so I'm going to turn it upside down and see if we can get it to go from there. And that's it. All you do is put this under a grow light, wait a few days, and just mist it and keep the top just a little bit moist. If it dries out for a day, it's fine. I've had the ones under the grow light, they've dried out and I've just misted them and they've kicked right back up again. And within 2 to 3 weeks, you'll start to see new leaves forming and roots starting to sprout. Let me show you a close look at what I've got going on down here. Okay, here's the 2 saucers that I've been propagating for a few weeks now. And let me pull this one up and we can take a closer look at it. So let me turn this around. So if you look right over here, you can see that this leaf right here, this is the cut end. You can already see roots starting to come out of it. The leaf is starting to die and it will eventually start to push new leaves and new plants out there. Right over here, if you look a little closely, it's got roots and it's already starting to push new leaves. And so we've got a few new pups already going. Here's another leaf and there's some roots coming out. And you can see how they come out and then eventually they go down and they find the soil. There's another cutting with roots coming out and you can see the propagating leaf is starting to wither. And there's another little pup hiding in between these 2. And these have probably been in here for about 3 weeks. And all I do is just come in every couple days and mist them with a little bit of water, and that's pretty much it. Hi, Shoo Shoo. Hi, little Wiggles. Come here. Shoo came in to say hi. Say hi, Wiggles. Give me a kiss. Good boy. Good boy. Kiss. Yeah, he's so good. Oh, and the only reason that I had a humidity dome over those older propagating saucers is because I was dealing with fungus gnats on a couple of the other plants. So I just wanted to make sure that those cuttings didn't get infested. That's it. And here they all are. Don't they look good? I did go in and water all of the succulents that we repotted. I didn't water the 2 that we cut the tops off of, the little tray of leaves we're propagating, and the 2 cut stems. Those I'm gonna let them sit for probably about a week and then I'll go in and water them. But these I did give them a nice drink, and any future waterings I will be watering from the bottom because I do kind of prefer that for succulents. Just kind of put them in a little bowl of water and just let them suck up what they need. This is what I'll be using to feed them with. This is the Espoma cactus food. I will give them their first feeding probably around the beginning of April, and then come in around July and give them a second dose. And I'll just follow the instructions on the back of the bottle and they'll be happy. I'm going to get all of our succulents under the grow lights, and that wraps up all of our projects for today. I hope after watching this video that succulents don't seem as intimidating to you if they did, like they were to me, because I knew nothing about them, and after a little bit of research and a lot of trial and error, I have grown to love these little guys so much. I think they're so cute. I think they all have just such distinct personalities and characteristics. I love them all, and I hope that this video inspired you guys to go out there and get a few and just start messing around with them. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!